Sassy Eliot. Hey. Sassy Eliot. Girl.
It's the WIP Afternoon Show at Ike, Spike, and Fritz. It's Friday, 3 o'clock, joined by Sassy Eliot. Brought to you by Robin Ford, online at robinford.com. There's no stopping at Robin. How you doing, Eliot?
Well, if there was ever a day for Sassy Eliot, this is certainly going to be that day.
Yeah, he's so happy. You hear him?
Yeah, we'll see how long until my mic gets shut off by Jim.
No, it'll be potted down. No.
Well, Eliot, before we get to the Eagles, we need to know your thoughts on the Phillies missing out on Bo Bichette and pivoting to JT Realmuto.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a disaster. I think there's obviously a ton of criticism here. The fact it makes the Schwarber deal look even worse. Like, what's the point of paying Schwarber at this point? Like, if you're gonna go in and pay Schwarber, then you have got to finish it. Like, you have to bring somebody else in to try to make the lineup somewhat different. And look, the Mets came in at the last minute. I know it seems like they had the deal done, but free agency's been for a while. Like, if he's your guy and you have the money, like, get the deal done. So. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a disappointment. Like, they're old. It's just a disaster for next year.
Well, that's where it feels like they got played. Because, it came out that the Mets met with him on Zoom last week. You didn't hear about that.
Right.
You heard about the Phillies one.
Yes.
Because they wanted to generate as much interest as they could. They wanted to stay around as long as they could. They wanted to wait till after Kyle Tucker. Like, he might have signed with the Phillies, sure. But they were more interested in getting the best possible deal.
Yes, but that's his agent's job. And we'll get to the Eagles, I promise, Eliot. But from a Phillies PR perspective, it's not the PR person's job. I'm not blaming the PR. I'm just saying from a PR perspective, as all of these reports start coming that the Phillies are going to sign him, they're definitely going to sign him before they even talk to him. The Phillies have to find a way to temper that.
They should have pushed back harder.
They should have. Instead of, we're going to have to move Alec Boehm. There were bigger hurdles than just moving Alec Boehm and not signing JT to make it happen. And I think not only did they get worked on this and played on this, they watched it happen for a week. And maybe you don't have, obviously we would be upset if the Phillies didn't sign Bichette, but if it didn't go this way so publicly for so long, then it doesn't feel quite as bad because we all thought they were going to sign JT anyway, in this offseason. So I think not only from a strategic perspective with the player, I thought from a strategic perspective publicly, they really messed this up.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about the Phillies, too, is I just think a lot of this frustration and, the impact losing him, why it feels so strong, is because everybody knows deep down this roster is filled with old players on bad contracts. So, the Bichette thing, if you could bring him in, right, he's an exciting new name. It's a new reason to have hope. He's not super old, if I'm not mistaken. So, the fact that they missed out on him, I think it's all just suddenly hitting everybody that the team's future is not bright. That does not mean they can't win a World Series next year. They competed with the Dodgers. You never know what happens in the playoffs, but just realistically, the window, if not closed, is super, super close to closing. And when you lose out on Bichette, it just highlights the other mistakes they have made.
Well, as we said earlier, hasn't been a great week overall for us here in Philadelphia. So we talked
First
to you.
They lose Patullo, now they lose Bichette. It's a rough week.
Yes, true. Yeah. So we talked to you about a bunch of things from the press conference yesterday from Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman. One thing we didn't talk to you about was the last thing that Howie Roseman said, and it was really just Howie obviously wanted to say it because no one asked him the question. It was before the whole thing was over. He just sort of popped in and said this. I'm going to play the quote, and I want to sort of get a sense from you why he said it. Go ahead, Jack.
Can I clarify one thing? Because I think it's important for our fans to understand. You can do whatever it takes to win now and still build for the future and still have those parallel paths. I just don't want it to get confused that we can't do whatever it takes to build a championship caliber team next year and also continue to have really good players on this team for the future. So, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on that.
So why did he say that?
So I think there's a couple reasons. One, how he uses these press conferences, while he is the ultimate chess player at these things, he knows everyone's listening. He's not trying to give anything away. I do think Howie does care about setting the tone for the offseason for the fans so that they know what to expect, right? And he's not going to tell you exactly. But what I hear there is there's a move coming that you're not going to like, right? Like there is a move coming that is going to look like they're punting on the season, or how could they go into the season without this guy? And he's trying to tell you that they are still going to compete, but the moves are also about the future. And to me, that feels like signing guys who are already under contract next year to big extensions. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Jomo, like guys like that this year for the first time are contract eligible. They will sign them, and maybe you see free agents walk, like Nakobe, like Reed Blankenship, like Jalen Phillips. And on the surface, and I think what he's trying to say there is, that looks like looking at the future, not the immediate. He's trying to say that, they're doing both. But yeah, I think it's a warning to fans. Like there's something coming that you're probably not going to like, but we're aware of it, and we're still going to compete next year.
Yeah,
compete for a title or just compete for the division, playoff team. Because we jumped in the boat of repeat champions and this and that and the other, but that's not what they did last offseason. They didn't attack the offseason last year as if they were trying to win the Super Bowl this year. Now, I think they made smart decisions. I think they made smart moves as far as trying to remain competitive, but also with an eye on the future. So I didn't necessarily fault them for that, but that seems like that's what we're about to do again this year coming up.
Yeah, that's why I bring up Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Moro Jomo. Like, I don't think, maybe they won't give extensions to all three of them, but I would guess if they listed, publicly the free agents or the contracts they care about the most this offseason, all three of those guys would be ahead of any impending free agent. I think they view them like they drafted all of them. They play important positions. They play an important part of the field. I think they view them as super critical. Now, to your point, you're right. They already have those guys for next year. So any cash they use this offseason to pay them, they would have them anyway. So
exactly.
there is that way of having the longest view in the room. And you're right. That's what we heard last offseason too. So, I agree with that.
Yeah, and to your initial point, Eliot, that there might be something they don't like, and you pointed to defensive players. You just look at is there an offensive starter? I'm trying to think of the offensive starters not making $20 million. Is it
Tyler Steen?
Steen and Goddard.
Yes.
That's it.
And Goddard's a free agent.
And that can't be forever. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the other thing we didn't talk about yesterday that I thought also should be a takeaway from the press conference is they're drafting offense. This year they are drafting offense. It would not surprise me. Now well, no, I know, but I'm saying that could be another thing that's perceived as, if they draft a tackle in the first round, but Lane and Mailata are coming back, that's not a win now move in some ways.
Right.
Now, one thing that he could be cautioning against where you could see it is they trade AJ and then they draft a receiver in the first round. And obviously a first round pick's a huge asset. You would expect that guy to contribute, but clearly that guy would not be in some ways a win-now player the way AJ would be. He'd be a rookie, right? So I think that you look at how they've done this over the past few years, drafting on defense, spending on offense. I think now they're going to try to even that out a little bit because they're going to put big contracts on defense and they'll remove contracts from offense.
And I'm not saying this is easy, but it is worth noting there have been a bunch of receivers over the last 4 or 5 years drafted in the first round who have been really productive in their first year.
You just got to get the right one.
You just have to get the right.
Yeah.
They're there. They're there. There have been a bunch of them. So let's move on to the offensive coordinator.
Even the second round. George Pickens was a second
round pick. Yeah. So let's move on to the offensive coordinator thing. We had our first. I guess not confirmed by the Eagles, but confirmed by Adam Schefter. Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson is interviewing today in Philadelphia for the Eagles offensive coordinator job. He's also interviewed for the Tampa and Detroit job as well. What do you think or know about Zach Robinson?
So I like it on the surface. Obviously did not watch every snap of the Falcons last year, so I can't speak to the scheme. But if you just look at his resume and then you look at how he used the quarterbacks, I think it's a nice fit. He checks a lot of boxes. He's not a big name, but I think he has some of the qualities of those big names. First of all, he has been in the NFL since 2010. He was a former quarterback. He played for a few years and then went right into coaching. He worked under Sean McVay for a long time. He coached quarterbacks. He coached receivers. He's called plays for the past 2 years for the Falcons, who have clearly not, been Super Bowl contenders. But you look at him kind of having to shuffle back and forth between Penix and Cousins and he's had to deal with instability at that position, but he's moved the ball pretty consistently. They were top 10 in yards in 24 and top 15 in yards last year. So obviously a lot of talent there, but even with instability at quarterback, he's moved the ball. So he checks the play caller thing. He checks like the production thing, the interesting background for sure. And then you look at where the quarterbacks threw the ball. Like we know the two areas Jalen struggles with is intermediate and middle of the field and throwing from under center. And Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, like they did it more than Jalen, but they certainly didn't do it as much as Tua did under Mike McDaniel. So I know everyone wants to challenge Jalen and do new things, but you have to have a coach that can at least game plan off what Jalen's strengths are, and Zach Robinson seems to be able to do that.
Yeah, the things that Jalen sort of is uncomfortable with, it'll be interesting to see how much of he grows out of that. Because sometimes we're athletes, you're creatures of habit. And what's his bugaboo, he's going to know where those red flags are, where he doesn't want to be at. And I don't know how willing he's going to be to do that if it's leading to turnovers and losses in games and things of that nature. He's only going to revert back to being the Jalen Hurts that wants to throw the ball outside the numbers and throw the ball deep down the field.
And, like, they can go into OTAs, training camp, and say, let's try all these new things and see if Jalen can do it, right? Like, I think there's good intention there. But they also have to have a coordinator that, if he can't do those things, is used to coaching a quarterback that can do the things Jalen does, right? Like, while Mike McDaniel has obviously used his quarterbacks very different in Miami, and I know everybody loves the idea of him coming here and doing that, if he gets here and Jalen can't do it, you then have a coordinator that has never really coached a quarterback in the way Jalen would then need to be coached in terms of what he does. Like,
not true. That's not true. I mean, he was on the coaching staff that coached RG3.
Oh,
that's fair. That's a good point.
Mike
I'm thinking
McDaniel.
about Miami.
Oh, Mike McDaniel.
You're right.
Yeah. So, I mean,
you're right. So,
yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I was just more speaking to Miami, but you're right.
Yeah.
He would have that background. I just mean the benefit of Zach Robinson would be he did use him that way. But
sure. Hold on, real quick, not to cut you off, Eliot. Just the RG3 thing. That was not a Shanahan pick.
No.
He was not happy with that pick.
Yes,
because
of that.
Because of that. They want to do other things. That was the owner that wanted RG3.
Yeah, I think it's a credit to the coaching staff for adjusting.
Yeah. They really wanted Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And this coaching staff did that with Jalen, right? Like, they had never had a quarterback like Jalen. They were given Jalen, and they ended up shifting their offense, right? So they've done it as well. But I'll also say, like, speaking of rough weeks in Philly sports, I decided to rewatch the game again today on offense and rewatch all the plays. And, like, I just think this idea that the key to next year bouncing back is scheme is just wrong. Like, when you watch that game, the problem is not scheme. The problem is, like, guys missing blocks, effort, like tripping over each other, drops, poor throws. And that is coaching, right? Like, but that's Nick. That's not like a scheme thing. Like, guys were open. So if people think a new scheme next year is just going to save all this, like, that's just not true. The interior of the offensive line wasn't great. I mean, the 49ers put two linebackers on the field who had never even played for the team, and they were constantly getting off blocks. They're constantly beating the all-pro interior offensive linemen. They're constantly getting by A.J. Brown, who's supposed to be blocking them. Like, so, yes, I get that you need to evolve the offense and all that. But what I like about Zach Robinson is he seems to do things that they're already good at. And then you have to hope that Nick next year, like, gets these guys to play with better fundamentals and better effort.
I'm going to tell you what, there's no way they're giving total autonomy to Zach Robinson if he comes here.
What about Charlie Weiss Jr.?
So that's the other one. Joe Santaloquito reporting that
Insider of the Year candidate Joe Santaloquito.
Insider of the Year
on the record.
He was always on the. Yep, he was always right there waiting.
Well, there's a reason. We respect him.
I agree.
So Joe Santaloquito reports that the Eagles are flying in Charlie Weiss Jr., who's currently at Ole Miss and then will be at LSU. That's the way it works. What do you think? Because he worked for Kiffin, right?
Yeah. Yes.
How do you like that? Like college knowledge there.
Nailed it.
What do you think of Charlie Weiss Jr.?
If this was 2021, I would really like it. Like, I would like the idea if this was the Eagles were just starting a rebuild under a new regime with, like, it's trying to, like, get this thing going with no expectations, then the idea of hiring someone that at his age, like, is already thought of the way he is and getting him in the building, I think would be a positive. But if the Eagles hire an offensive coordinator that is 32 years old into one of the most high-pressure situation jobs in the NFL entering next year, I think it would be a disaster. He's never called plays at the NFL level. He's Jack's age. He's younger than me. Like, you're going to put that guy in charge of that offense, and he's going to be the one responsible for cleaning up all these mistakes, for telling Saquon and, like, AJ they have to block harder. Like, I think it's an interesting hire. Like, I think it's an interesting interview, and he probably would be interesting to talk to. But in terms of giving him this offense, I think that would be like a disaster.
Another coach that there's no way he's getting total autonomy.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. So I say that to say everybody wants Nick away from the offense and everything.
Yeah, good luck.
Just be prepared for Nick to be involved in the offense.
Well,
I also thought it was interesting yesterday when Nick described what he wanted in an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He talked about teaching, fundamentals, mental toughness, right? Like, he talked about the things he believes in. Like, obviously yesterday the message was clear. They'll have full autonomy. I think maybe we're underestimating a little bit how much the guy is going to have to mold somewhat to Nick's beliefs, because that's what he talked about yesterday.
Yep.
Well, Nick's beliefs, or at least Nick's beliefs with the current personnel. You know, the question I think will be for them is because there are a lot of open head coaching jobs, which may take away the high level, the elite guys that they wanted. We saw Rossini's report that Mike McDaniel and Brian Daboll at the top of their list. Both those guys could definitely get a head coaching job this cycle. And the question will be for them is, are we going to do a retread? Like, I don't think they hired Greg Roman, but like, are we going to do?
Come on, G.
Are we going to do a retread, or are we going to go to one of these guys who is not? Are we going to go to Charlie Weiss Jr., a guy that we believe in his future? I think it's going to be an interesting thing for them if they're not able to get one of the bigger name guys.
Well, I can never for the life of me remember his name, like Wheelhouse, I think it is, out of the Rams. Shieldhouse, that's it, right.
Yeah.
So
did you say Wheelhouse?
Honestly, it was pretty close, if we're being honest.
Yes.
But, like, he's an interesting in-the-middle guy, right? Because he is, like, viewed, like, obviously he's worked in the NFL more currently than Charlie Weiss Jr. has. And he is viewed as a future head coach candidate. Now, he's never called plays, but he is someone that is highly sought after. Like, if I were him, I wouldn't take this job. But if like, they can convince one of these next up guys to come in, then maybe you do fold a little bit on the play calling thing. Like, I think there'd be a major risk there, but he would be a step above Charlie Weiss Jr. in terms of experience while still not checking all the boxes.
We got to hire someone that has NFL experience, that isn't a first-time play caller. This isn't just about X's and O's.
I agree with you.
This is about commanding the offensive side of the ball with high-priced players, with big personalities, that when things aren't going their way, they're going to voice their opinion. And the next thing you know, you're going to be changing your offense to make them happy. You got to have somebody in there that isn't going to cater to that nonsense. Somebody that has some skin in the game, that they will be respected. That's why I don't know if they don't get the McDaniel or a Dable or somebody of that ilk. I don't know if this thing is going to wind up being a disaster anyway.
Right.
We're bringing a young guy in here for the first time with NFL players that has won a Super Bowl, that's been in the playoffs every year. I don't know, man. They wouldn't even listen to the guy who helped them win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, who's been here.
Who's been here.
Like, yeah.
If only there was a coordinator out there who was familiar with the players, had called plays for a year, right? But I mean, to what you just said, right? I agree with you. And, like, whoever takes this job is going to be dealing with strong personalities. But
starting at the quarterback position,
right?
Starting there,
100%. But also, if Nick wants to be the head football coach and wants this guy to run the offense, then Nick has got to manage those personalities.
Right,
like, if the offensive coordinator both has to manage personalities and coach the offense, like, then he might as well just be the head coach, right? So I agree with you that as the coordinator, you have to be able to manage the personalities and stand up to them, because you are the one calling the plays and designing the offense. But it'll be Nick's job next year to, like, make sure that that thing, like the effort
Sure,
and
yep.
all that is better, because that was the bigger problem. Like, that was the bigger problem this year. It was not the scheme, but it was the little things. And
Well,
Nick has to be better with those little things.
Yeah, that was one of the things that when we were talking to Jordan Mailata about Kevin Patullo, and he was saying, like, look, it's not him, it's us. It's, penalties and execution. And I asked him, and I think it's fair, well, that is the coach too, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
If you guys aren't doing that,
Yes.
if you did do that, right? The Rams and the Niners are the two least penalized teams in the league. Who do we give credit for that? Not the player. We give the coach credit for that.
Right.
The players are the ones that do it, but it comes from the coach. So if you're not doing it, the coach also gets blamed, All right, Eliot. Well, thank you. This is a great time for the Go Birds podcast. You could subscribe and you get Go Birds Daily. You get a little Eagles every single morning, a little Eliot every single morning with your coffee. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
A little bit of Eliot every morning?
A little bit of Eliot.
No better way to start the day.
Yeah.
If you want me on the Emergency High Hopes to talk about this, I'm available.
I'll be sure
to
to text you right after you get off the air.
I can't wait. We'll schedule that. Yeah.
Actually, Battle, if you're listening, I think a Mambo number 5 Eliot song, like a little bit of Eliot in my feed, a little bit of Eliot, like one of those would be good.
Just when Sassy Eliot starts to shoot.
I know.
We're not getting rid of Sassy Eliot.
It's not going anywhere. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
He's not. Don't worry.
All right. There he is, the great Eliot Shorr-Parks.